Most stores can't retarget 95% of their visitors simply because of low converting pop-ups. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make sure you're capturing as many emails and phone numbers as possible, and I'm talking about the theoretical limit. Well, almost the theoretical limit. So before we start, just make sure you've got your incentive, you've made your mind up about the incentive that you're willing to give. If you're not sure, go and watch the video on this channel about the best incentive to pick for your niche. Next, make sure you've got your logo with transparent background, your font, your main color, and your background color. So what type of pop-up are we going to be making? So we've done dozens of tests where we've tested pop-ups with images, no image, we have special 3D animations and stuff. And the conclusion is there is no correlation between how good the pop-up looks and the performance of the pop-up. So we are going to stick with simplicity, and we're not going to overcomplicate stuff. And here's a preview of the pop-up we'll be making. First we have a teaser, then we have a yes or a no step, an email step, a name step, and an SMS step, and finally the success step where we give the discount on the pop-up. You might be wondering, why are there so many steps? That's because if we show the email input field, the name input, the SMS input all on one step, it's going to be too overwhelming for the visitor, and we don't want them to get overwhelmed and look for the close icon or the no button on autopilot. We want to make it super light. At the start we ask them, hey, do you even want this? Instead of straight away showing them an email input field. Okay, enough talking. Let's go to your Klaviyo dashboard, go to sign up forms, create form, and for the type of pop-up, select pop-up, and you can choose any of them because we'll be configuring everything. So let me just go for the first one, name it main pop-up, and for the list, just choose the list that triggers the welcome flow, an SMS list, again the one that triggers the welcome flow, add included teaser, and click on create form. So before we start configuring the steps over here, let's first adjust the settings of the entire pop-up. So you go to styles, there's a lot of settings over here. You don't need to touch everything, just touch whatever I touch. So form type pop-up, width custom, and the width is going to be 350. I know it looks weird, but just wait a second. The minimum height is going to be 350. Side image, select no side image, and then your background color, select your color, and just make sure it's like this, overlay color, drop shadow, and then corner radius. Depending on if your brand is round, like has a rounded feel or an edgy feel, you can choose 20 if you want. If it's more of an edgy feel, just do 3 pixels. Border style, doesn't matter, just do none. Padding, do 20, top, bottom, left, and right. Margin, do 0, and text and headings, just choose your font, do font size 20, input field, text and styles, choose your font size 20, and then at the bottom there's going to be input field height, just change that to 45 pixels. Okay, so now we've finished configuring the style of the entire pop-up that applies to all of the steps. Now we can start making the individual steps. So what I'm going to show you now is going to simplify everything. So like I said, the pop-up we'll be making has 5 steps, and each step consists of blocks, okay? And you can find those blocks over here. All the blocks you need will be over here. So the plan of action is going to be make step 1, and then we clone the first step to make the next steps. And if you want to save even more time, me and my team can do this for you. We can build your custom pop-up and clone it over to your account for free. Just click the first link in the description. So first, actually even before we make the first step, let's configure the teaser. So select rectangle, layout, medium, display settings, select the last one and make sure this is off. And then for the copy over here, it's simply going to be get 10% off. So whatever your incentive is, font size 20, select your font. For my font, I just like to do bold, like that, and background color, adjust the corner radius, you can adjust it if you want, but not needed. Block margin, for block margin, just do this so that it's sideways. Padding should be 20 pixels, like that. And that's it for the teaser. Next, we have the first step. So here is the composition of step 1. We've got an image, a text block, a button block, another text block, and another button block. So what I like to do first is just delete everything. For some reason, it's not going to allow you to delete the last element, the last block. So just keep it. So add blocks. First we have an image, and then we have a text block, and then we have a button block, and then we have another text block, and then we have the button, and we can keep this button. So I like to do it systematically, either from top to bottom or left to right. So let's go from top to bottom. First we have the image, select your logo, and just change the width to 50 pixels. But if your logo is small, keep it at 100, that's fine. Next we have the text, and the copy over here is going to be want 10% off. Make it font size 50, align it in the middle, choose your font, and just make sure that the incentive is on one line. So like this. And then for the first button, the action is going to be submit form. After submit, show next step. Button text is going to be yes. Choose your font size 20, just choose a color. And then for the roundness, again, depending on what type of brand you have, if it's edgy, go for sharp edges. If it's round, do round edges. Height is going to be 45 pixels. And then the second text block is simply going to be or. Font size 20, line in the middle, select your font, and the last button, the action is going to be close form. The text is going to be no. Just select your font size 20, choose your colors, round, height is going to be 45, and that's it. So the first step is now configured. Now let's clone this. Well, before we clone it, let's just rename it properly. This step is called the yes or no step. Rename, and now we can clone. Let's call the clone the next step, which is the email step. Clone, and the composition of the second step is image, 2 text blocks, an email input block, and button blocks. Again, make sure you're on the email step. So image, leave it as it is. The text, you're going to change the copy to get 10% off. Make it on one line. If needed, you can decrease the font size so that it's on one line. Next, the button, we have a second text block first, and then we have an email in, and then we have 2 buttons. So the copy, we've already changed it, get 10% off. And the second text block, here we're simply going to add any conditions for that discount. So minimum order must be $50, let's say, and just make sure it's on one line. If needed, you can decrease the font size. And then we have the email input. The label is simply going to be email, and you don't need to touch anything else. Now the first button, make sure the action is submit form, list to submit, choose the list that triggers your welcome flow, and you don't need to touch anything else because we've already styled the button in the last step. But for the second button, we need to change the copy. For the first button, we also need to change the copy to submit, and then the second button, we need to change the copy to no thanks with full stop. We need to make the button transparent and just change the font so that it's visible like this. Okay, so all good. We can now go on to the next step, which is the name step. And the composition of this step is an image, a text block, a text input block, and 2 button blocks. So make sure you're on the name step. Image, leave it as it is. Text, so we have a text block. We can delete the second text block. We have an email input, which we can now delete and replace it with a text block. And then we have the 2 buttons, all good. So now let's configure each block. Image, leave it as it is. The text, change it to almost there. It gives them a sense of progression. If needed, decrease the font size. Text input, the label is going to be first name. Placeholder is going to be your first name. Profile property is going to be first name. You don't need to make it required, and that's it. Same for this. No need to add anything else. Submit. The first button, you need to change the copy to get 10%. So the same. So just get the incentive. That's it. Now we have the final step, which is the SMS step. And the composition of the SMS step is an image block, a text block, SMS input, SMS disclaimer, and 2 buttons. So make sure you're on the SMS step. Image, leave it as it is. Text, we're going to change that in a second. But first, let's remove the text input and replace it with the SMS block. Okay, and we're gonna, the label is simply going to be phone number. Okay, you don't need to touch anything else, just adjust the default country if needed. You don't need to make it required, and that's it. Disclosure, here there's going to be a placeholder which you have to edit, and you just have to replace it with your brand name, and then make sure the font size is 8, same for the link text. And now it looks a lot neater. You can also select your font, all good. And then we have the 2 buttons. Okay, so now let's configure each step from the top. Image, leave it as it is. The text is going to say final step, so that they know they're going to get the discount right after this, so they're more likely to submit this step, to submit their phone number in the step. So phone number, I've already done this. Disclosure, button, you don't need to touch anything else over here. And this button, we just need to change the copy to no texts, just emails. That's it. And one last thing, which I almost forgot to tell you, is the close icon. Removing this is going to significantly improve the conversion of this pop-up. So as we've removed it on one step, it has also been removed on all of the steps. Okay, and now we just need to set up the success step. Just delete everything. So again, you can't delete the last block, that's fine. And the composition of the success step is a text block, a coupon block, and a button block. Even though it says 2 button blocks, it's actually 1 button. So let's go to blocks. We have a text block first, and then we have a coupon block, and then we have a button. And then you can delete the leftover text block. So the first text block is simply going to say, so first make it font 50. It's going to say success. And the second line, just for the second line, decrease the font size to 25 pixels, and then align it in the middle, and just choose your font. That's it. For the coupon, just do static coupon. Here it's going to be the Shopify coupon. Make sure you've made a coupon inside of Shopify first, and then the button's action is going to be close form. Text is going to be close. Just choose your font size 20, and height 45, and just choose a color and add some roundness if you want, and that's it. We've now finished configuring the pop-up, the copy, and how everything looks. But next is the most important part, which is the targeting and behavior of the pop-up. This can literally kill your pop-up if you get it wrong. So it doesn't matter which step you're on, just click on targeting and behavior. It's going to apply to the entire pop-up. We've tested these settings extensively, so just trust me on this. Copy whatever settings I'm going to show you. So select the following settings based on rules. When visitor is exiting the page after time delay of 2 seconds, and after visitor has scrolled 10%, frequency change it to 1 day, do both desktop and mobile, click outside form to close, make sure this is off, okay, targeting, don't show to existing Klaviyo profiles, URLs, you don't need to add any exclusions over here, unless you've got like a special page or something, but keep it simple, no exclusions needed, UTM parameters, not needed, location filters, again, not needed, and that's it. Even though this stuff is simple, just make sure everything is as I've shown, and that's it. You are ready to launch the pop-up. Simply publish over here, and it's going to go live, and you're going to start collecting emails.